Hey, I'm Sara King, physical therapist and founder of Invigorate Physical Therapy and Wellness here in Austin, Texas. And if you're someone diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and you're looking for a few more answers and maybe even some alternative approaches to your Parkinson's disease, I really have a treat for you today. My guest here is Colin Potter. He is the founder of fightparkinsons.org, and he himself was diagnosed with Parkinson's at the age of 61, which was about 5 years ago. And 2 years ago, he really started on this quest to find answers to his Parkinson's diagnosis because he had reached a point where getting out of bed, getting out of a chair, even walking more than 15 minutes at a time was really an arduous task. So he started searching the research to see what was out there to answer the question, where do neurological disorders come from and what can be done about them? So he's joining me today in Austin, Texas. And Colin, we're so happy to have you here. It's a great pleasure. So how have you liked Austin so far?
Well, hi, Sarah. Well, I'm really delighted to be in Austin. I've been here 4 or 5 days now, and what a wonderful city you have. What lovely, warm, vibrant people you have here too. We've really been made to feel very, very welcome.
Oh, okay.
And I came here with a particular mission, which is to find out exactly what was going on with Parkinson's, because you've got a lot of great things happening here. And I wanted to see for myself exactly what was going on, and I've been able to meet with a functional medicine doctor, a holistic neurologist, and of course I've met with you and seen the wonderful things that you're doing. And that's what I plan to take back to the UK and to our many Fight Parkinson's followers.
Wonderful. Well, we're happy to have you. And Austin is kind of a unique place for that as far as alternative approaches go. We kind of have this reputation in Austin to keep it weird. And, we just are always seeking those kind of alternative options and not really being okay with the status quo. And I've seen a real evolution in medicine, transitioning towards options that are really outside of the pill bottle. And I feel like hearing your story has been so inspirational to me, because I think that after I heard your story, I really understood that I wanted to really talk with you more about your journey. And my question for you would be, what made you decide to seek this alternative approach to Parkinson's?
Well, when I was first diagnosed, it really was, I was told that Parkinson's was a degenerative, incurable disease, that I was required to take drugs and then just take my medicine and suffer whatever comes my way. But the one thing the doctors couldn't answer for me was, what was the cause of Parkinson's? But of course they say the cause was lack of dopaminergic producing neurons, but what had caused that to stop? And I didn't understand that, and I couldn't understand why they didn't have an answer to what causes that. And that's what started me on my journey. And it didn't happen straight away, because I went for 2 years following medical advice and taking my levodopa medication, but I wasn't getting any better. And then I kind of had this eureka moment, which was I need to do something about it. And this really came at my son's wedding 3 years ago. And I thought, I'm not getting better. I really performed badly at the wedding. I had to fly to California, and I performed badly at the wedding. I gave a speech and my arms were jerking like a marionette, because it's the kind of stress type situation. And then afterwards, my back was so painful, my rigidity in my back, I just had to sit down and just watch the whole party go ahead without me participating. And people came up and said, well, sorry about you being so nervous with the speech. I said, I'm not nervous. This is Parkinson's. And that's what set me on my journey to say, is there something else? And something triggered that. And that was the very good fortune that someone passed me a book called Grain Brain by Dr. David Perlmutter. And that's where Dr. Perlmutter explains, and what I liked about it, not just explained, he demonstrated through research and the vast amount of research out there that Parkinson's can be caused by lifestyle. And I said, well, that can be fixed by lifestyle, then I'm going to fix myself by lifestyle. And that was the trigger for me to start conducting my research. And since then, it's been totally all-consuming to study what's out there and then start sharing it with others.
Right. So what was it from Grain Brain that really opened your eyes to this new approach? What kinds of things did you learn from Grain Brain specifically to start you on this?
Well, it focuses, lifestyle really really centres around diet. And when you start reading all the research which says for the last 60 years we've been on the wrong diet, and you look around you and you see all the diseases that are proliferating, diabetes, Alzheimer's, depression, Crohn's disease, chronic digestive issues, these are all fairly new, relatively new inventions in terms of numbers of people. So that's what it says. There is something there. So something is causing that. And he points towards diet. And then was more specific and starts talking about sugars and carbohydrates and gluten all being toxic to the body. And I thought, well, I can fix that. And that's a straightforward thing for me to go about and fix. But what I really liked was it wasn't someone, you get so many books where someone's expanding on a theory, but it's not supported. And what I liked, everything about he did, and it accorded with my kind of thinking, the way I do it was backed by research. And everything I've done since then has always been centred around following the research, which sadly gets ignored by virtually all our doctors, or certainly all the conventional medicine doctors, but not, fortunately, doctors of integrative medicine and functional medicine and holistic, treating people holistically.
Right. And so from Grain Brain, how did your diet change right then?
Well, Grain Brain pointed me towards PubMed.
Okay.
Now, PubMed is this fantastic resource run by the US government, by the National Institute of Health, and which contains about 25 million research on 25 million different studies conducted at universities and other accredited clinical research facilities. And I simply went and entered into PubMed, ketogenic diet, diet and Parkinson's, and up popped research on the ketogenic diet, which is essentially a high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet. And that showed, there was a study, I can't remember, it was in Columbia University in New York, which pointed to a diet where about 8 Parkinson's patients, Parkinson's subjects, were put on the ketogenic diet for a month, and their symptoms were reduced by somewhere between 40 and 60, 40%. And that to me was, wow, if it works for them, it's not that difficult for me to go and try that myself. And so that was the starting move. I talked to my wife, Barbara, and we went straight onto the ketogenic diet. So that high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet. And that's what I went on.
So you saw that others had success, and that triggered you to kind of believe in this process that it was actually possible. You felt like you weren't forging a whole new world, that somebody else had kind of been there before and it had worked, so it was worth taking the risk. I'm wondering if you ever thought, what if this doesn't work? Did you ever have the feeling of, why would I start this if I don't know that it could actually work for me?
Two things there. Everything I've done is low risk and the opportunity of high reward. So a risk of changing my diet, of giving up carbohydrates and sugars and gluten, that doesn't seem much like a risk to me, or even much of a sacrifice. But I was presented with a chink of light, that there might be a way out for me. And anyone who's got Parkinson's would say, please give me a way out. And so it was just a matter of thank goodness, someone has shone a bit of light on this for me. I'm going to take this opportunity. Because frankly, when you've got Parkinson's, you really say, I'll do anything I can to wriggle out of it.
Right. So tell us about what happened next. So you went on the low carbohydrate, high fat diet.
Yep.
You started eliminating the toxins as far as sugars and carbohydrates go from your diet. So did you feel a difference immediately? And if not, how long did it take for you to start feeling a difference?
Well, when we talk about difference, there's two stages. Firstly, I suddenly felt more energised, but there was no material change to my Parkinson's symptoms. But I did feel better, and I just felt better. Perhaps it's worth explaining what the high-fat, low-carb diet means. It means I just kick out all sugars, all gluten, so all breads, pastries, cookies, everything, that goes out the diet. And sugars, well, that's pretty obvious. So breakfast cereals. So all those healthy breakfast cereals that have been advertised, and I used to have a kind of muesli thing, was actually packed full of sugar. So that went as well and was replaced by things like berries and probiotic yogurts and things like sandwiches and all those kind of things went and were replaced with more wholesome food. And it really is as simple as that. And the change to me was I started feeling better physically, and then it took about 6 months. And the first manifestation of what I thought, way I really am onto something, was when the most disabling symptom I had, which was my back rigidity, which really had left me confined to a chair for most of the day, unable to really do even simple tasks like washing the dishes, that disappeared. And then I really, really knew I was onto something.
Yeah.
But that was just part of what that research told me, because I went much, much, much further than that.
Mm-hmm. So let me back up just a little bit. And can you tell us where you were physically before you started on this diet, as far as what were your main symptoms that you were experiencing, and, what were your main limitations, I guess, before?
Well, I'd always been a highly active person, golfer, cyclist, walker, enjoyed the outdoors, and that had been snatched away. The biggest disabling symptom was my rigidity. That was the back rigidity. I used to feel as I had a golf ball, someone had shoved inside the thigh of my right thigh. I wasn't able to write, of course, by hand. I couldn't even write my name. It would start with one big letter and then would shrink into nothing in the space of an inch across the page. I'd lost the functionality of my right hand, so I was really typing with my left hand. I always had reasons why I was doing these things, but I was able to only type with my left hand. My right hand wasn't really usable. And the biggest fear and the biggest scary thing I had was when I started wanting to cross a road and I wasn't able to do that. There was something holding me back and I was anxious. And that's what I think that was probably the thing that I was the most fearful symptom I had. I thought something is really amiss here. And those are some of the symptoms I had. I mean, I've got a softer voice. I still have a softer voice than I always had. People used to say to me, "Why you look so grim? Why are you unhappy?" I thought, well, I feel great. But of course the face doesn't show it. And I figure there's some other symptoms. But the funny thing is, once they're past, as they are now, you kind of forget. And I have to make a list of what I actually had. And it's quite a long list as well.
So after 6 months, you started to notice the rigidity started to lessen up. And then as you're going, I'm assuming you're still researching, you're still adding to your depth of knowledge about the brain and lifestyle. So at 6 months, you're starting to gain some momentum. Are you adding anything at this point, or are you pretty stable as far as what you're experimenting with?
Right. Well, let me back up a little bit further than that. When I started, of course, when I opened that Pandora's box of research, the diet was the first bit. Then I started further research, started discovering nutritional deficiencies. So typically there were studies that showed that typically the Parkinson's person was deficient in vitamin B or vitamin C or and certainly vitamin D, and then would likely be highly inflammatory in their body and in their brain, which means they had an imbalance between their omega-3 and omega-6. So I would supplement. So I started supplementing with all these vitamins. So that was also part of the program. And as time went past and I found more, so I slowly added more. I guess I've probably taken about 14 different vitamins right now. So at 6 months, the pain went from my rigidity in my back. Now that meant I was able to rise from a chair and become mobile. And when you become mobile, I was starting to being able to walk. Oh, and I didn't add, of course, my foot dragged. And I used to, not a shuffle, but more of a lunge when I walked. So my walking improved dramatically. And so the symptoms gradually reduced. So by 9 months, I felt comfortable about reducing my levodopa medication, and I noticed no change in my circumstances or continued improvement. And so I carried on. Pretty much that was it with the diet and the supplements. That by 12 months, and that was November 2014, I've got the day etched in my memory, 30th of November, I stopped taking Parkinson's medication entirely. And since that date, so that's 18 months now, I've been medication free, and I can't say, and I've got better and better and better. Although since then, at November 14, there's more things I've added and learned. And that's what I continue to do.
Okay. Such a great story of just continued perseverance. I think a lot of people tend to think if it takes more than a week or two, I might not be motivated to continue on. And so at 12 months, you made a decision to write your ebook. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I'd never seen anyone writing about this. Of course, they see the research, but that gets a bit difficult for people to reach out to. So I thought, well, I'm going to tell my story. I felt so excited at that stage about what had happened to me. I really wanted to share it with others. So I wrote my ebook, and which I published on the web and made available through our website, and then started a Facebook page to draw people to it, because that's really, you don't reach people through websites now, you reach them through Facebook. So I started a Facebook page, and really to start sharing this information, you can do something. You haven't got to go and suffer in silence. There are things you can do that can change your Parkinson's destiny and change the path of your life. And so that's what I started doing, and I started that just over a year ago.
Okay. So the website was kind of to just spread the message of hope for people to just understand that there's something out there that could be different than what they're thinking, that their future might hold.
Well, yeah, because there's a different message, which is it's incurable, it's degenerative. You take the medication, which doesn't really hold back. It maybe have some effect on some symptoms. It's never changed the course, and it's doing nothing, which the diet and the supplements do, which is start addressing the cause. What is causing Parkinson's? And if you don't fix the cause, but all you're doing is plugging the holes, then it's going to carry on and get worse. Mm-hmm. So it's really spreading that message that there is something you can do. It has an origin, and do something to address that origin, and you can do something to change your Parkinson's destiny. And that's really what this has all been about. Yeah. But I should say that November 2014 is only the very start, because I thought I knew a lot then, but what I knew then was what I didn't know. I knew then that what I didn't know, I didn't know. And that has expanded, or my knowledge has expanded greatly since then, eliminating more toxins from the body. People don't understand that the regular toothpaste they buy is full of toxins, and the fastest way to get something from you to the brain is to put it on the tongue. And that's toothpaste. So I have organic toothpaste, I have organic shower gel, organic deodorant, shampoo. Everything I try to eliminate as many toxins as I can from my body. And then, having felt really better, I started investigating exercise. And that has improved hugely. That has helped me in the last year. That has made a huge difference, because I had quite a pronounced tremor and what you'd call a really heavy arm. And I figured if I started building the strength, because my muscles had all wasted away, and my muscle mass was very, very limited. So through going to the gym and working under a personal trainer for three days a week, that has improved greatly. And the stronger I've got, so my use of my right arm's increased, and the tremors reduced, and I felt, my mobility to rise from the floor, get down on the floor and play with my grandchildren and all those kind of things has changed immensely.
Did your personal trainer know much about Parkinson's before you started?
He knew nothing.
How did you go about learning together about Parkinson's and exercise?
We're figuring it out as we go along, and this is partly why I'm excited to be here, because I'm starting to see what you're doing here, and I thought, well, we need to tap into this. This is what we really need to learn, because I think there's much, much further we can go by understanding what you do and what you're accomplishing. Because I've seen some of the before and afters of what you've done with your clients, and I'm thinking, we need that, and we need to share that and start showing people, look, this is as good as medication is exercise.
And I would argue equally as important.
Yeah.
And of course I am biased because I'm a physical therapist, but the beauty about exercise is everyone at some level can participate in that. And it's a lot less daunting to say, let's stand up and do 5 repetitions. And, so I think exercise can be a powerful key that really unlocks that whole lifestyle change, but we can get more into that a little bit later. But you mentioned your personal trainer is learning as he goes. So what have you found the most helpful from what you guys do together? Is it weight training? Is it the cardiovascular? What component of exercise do you really feel like is unlocked your ability to move?
Working on flexibility and movement, first of all. Strength building, because I just feel so much more empowered by feeling as though everything's getting back to where it should be. The core learning, I didn't even understand building core strength and what that does for my ability to move and maneuver. And now I've got fitter, because when I started, I thought I was starting from a good place, but now I realise where I am now. I was able to do maybe 2 or 3 repetitions, 2 or 3 minutes of exercise. Now it's like 5, 15, 20, 25 minutes of really sustained exercise, which means we've now introduced a real kind of dynamic routines. So it's really quite energetic exercise, which leaves me feeling really energised and even better. So
it sounds like you've had a pretty good and positive trajectory through this whole experience. You've started on the diet, you got good results, you started on moving more, you added a personal trainer. So did you ever reach any setbacks, or did life ever get in the way to the point where it wasn't all positively uphill? Did you run into even just any small barriers? I know it doesn't sound like you ever lost your motivation, but a lot of people run into things that life kind of gets in the way sometimes. So I am curious as to...
setbacks. Were there any setbacks would put me off the rails?
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person, when I started out, I said if I saw a chink of light, I was going to take it. So really nothing has ever deflected me from this task. And, and when you're motivated, when you start seeing things get better, then you don't want to go back. So nothing would get in the way. And I'm very fortunate. I've got a very supportive wife who's backed me the whole way, works with me on the diet, and when we're out and about, we always make sure we're eating the right food, that we're never derailed from the right course. But, I suffered a financial meltdown with business in the early 1990s. And when you face that and you come out of that, then that gives you the strength to take on anything. And I've always believed it was something, Parkinson's, when I saw that chink of light, that opening, that Parkinson's was something that I would wriggle out with. It's not gone, I still have it, but I live well with it, and it plays no real meaningful impact in my life. I'm kind of hyped up a little bit now, so my thumb's waggling away. But really, that isn't going to change my life. So... No, and when you start seeing things happening, and other people say the same things, because other people are now pursuing this agenda, this diet, and writing to me how they're saying how much they've recovered, that you never go back. The price of going back is too high, and the prize of going forward is so great that you keep your eye on the goal.
Talk about the prize a little bit more. What are you able to do now that you never thought you'd be able to do again before you started this journey?
The biggest prize of all is to be able to sit with my granddaughter and play on the floor. Let me give you an example. She's 2.5, and we'd taken her out, and we'd taken her a little bit further out, down along the beach than we should have done, and she was tired and she needed to be carried back. Now, I couldn't have picked her up a year ago, or 2 years ago. Now I was able to pick her up, this is a 2.5-year-old girl, and carry her several hundred yards home. Now that, to me, that is the prize. And I've heard it said before by other Parkinsons, motivator is to play with your grandchildren. Be a regular grandparent rather than someone who's just kind of sat in the chair and who doesn't play a part. And that's just symptomatic of everything. I do everything I want to do now. I travel, I come to Austin, I get off a plane, I travel around for the whole week, and I go back and I'm unaffected. And other people say, I don't know how you do it. I said, but I don't feel as though I have Parkinson's, just some minor symptoms.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So how have people responded on the website? You've made the website, you've written the ebook. What has been the response?
Well, I guess the best way you measure response is on our Facebook page. We now have 12,000 followers. I still think we have a long way to go, but that's the measure. And of course, nothing is more gratifying to me than someone right out of the blue to say, you have changed our lives. Because and it's usually the wife of the person with Parkinson's or the partner will write in and say, he is now able to get around and do things that he wasn't doing. Or maybe from the very early stage, you've enabled me to get hold of my Parkinson's before it gets hold of me. And that is really, really gratifying, and that's the real reward. But there's much, much more we want to do. I've learned what I've learned. Now I want to start. For example, let me take the example of myself with supplements. I've self-medicated, if you want to put it that way, and kind of guessed at the dosages I need to take. Well, I'm here in Austin because I can't find anyone in the UK that looks at it in this way, but I'm here in Austin to meet with neurologists and doctors of integrative medicine to start saying, these are the doses you need to take. And I want to encourage other people to say, it's very daunting to self-medicate, is to actually get under the wing of a doctor that can guide you in the right way. So we know we're on the right track. Now we need to start adding some polish and some veneer to this, so that it's not like a half-hearted effort. It is a total effort to get things right.
So in your research and in your experience with your community, what would you say to the people who are pretty far along in their diagnosis? They're reaching the kind of advanced stages of their Parkinson's symptoms.
Well, that's something I pretty quickly became aware of once the Facebook page was up and started publicising, because people were then writing to me, and then became personally acquainted with people with pretty advanced symptoms, and they want to find a way out too, but they're kind of in the grip of this medication, and they want to get well, but they can't, and it's so limiting on many. And so then I started researching. So my research then started taking me into alternative therapies. Now, there's one, I think they're virtually all from America. This is quite a very innovative place for this kind of thing. I came across I remember the amino acid therapy, which is a dopamine replacement therapy, using the Mucuna pruriens plant, or levodopa from that. And then I read a lady, I remember her name, but I won't say it now, said, I am now recovered. And I thought, wow. So I pursued that. And then I've read about low-dose naltrexone. But the thing that's missing with all these, there's lots of people saying, I've got well. We never hear the people that haven't recovered from it. So what I see us doing now is start collecting information from all these people on their experiences, what symptoms it changes, the good experiences and the bad experiences. And so we can start, there's a body of evidence that you can look at so that you can make an informed decision. Yes, I can do that. I mean, I've got a friend, through the fight Parkinson's, who's adopted the amino acid therapy. Within 3 days, he threw away his walking stick. Now, that is an exceptional story. He builds model boats, large model boats, with matchsticks. So you imagine how he was affected by and that was over for him.
Yeah.
He's now back building model boats. So that's an incredible story. But that's one story. What we need is start collecting that body of evidence so people can say with confidence, that's something I can do. And so I see us building an app that enables people to input, and we start collecting. So there's a resource that they can start, people can start making decisions, informed decisions, or perhaps going to their doctor and say, I would like to pursue this therapy. And there are more therapies coming my way than I've got time to research at the moment. But what we need to do is turn that from someone saying this worked for me to this will work for who it will work for with some confidence. So, but there's, that's one piece. There's a fraction. We're a modest outfit at the moment, but we need to add a lot more information rather than just one of hope. Now go and find it yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that I love about what you're doing is I think it's tempting for people, and you've seen, people out there who have said, well, this collection of things worked for me, and so now everyone needs to do this specific thing. And the thing that I really appreciate about what you're doing with fightparkinsons.org is you're not saying everyone should do exactly what I did. Instead, you're saying there are answers out there. Let's all do this together. And I think that that's really one of the most beautiful things about what you're doing and your effort is going towards, is because it's very collective minded, and it's really a support system and to help people inform themselves, because that's what really drives change, when people take action and empower themselves with knowledge and then go from there. So I really appreciate what you're doing there. And I think I would just finish by asking you, what is your definition of Parkinson's recovery?
Oh.
Yeah.
My definition, I would say living well. If you can live well with Parkinson's and it doesn't define your life, other things define your life. That's what I would say Parkinson's recovery can be.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Colin. This has been a real pleasure.
My pleasure too. Thank you very much, Sarah.